All right, so now we know that Trump is fully dismantling USAID. They've issued an order for all USAID personnel to be on leave and to come back to the United States from around the world. There's still no plan in place for how they're going to transition USAID into the State Department. It's unclear what happens to all these people who have, I mean, these people, these organizations who have been in the grant making process, who have or have grants that are already outstanding that they can no longer complete because of the stop work order. So yeah, it's really tough time for implementers around the world, civil society organizations, large NGOs, small NGOs, etc. And really, people are going to die because of this. It's not an exaggeration, between food assistance, healthcare, etc. But I wanted to just take a step back and look at how certain Republicans used to talk about USAID, including Senator Marco Rubio, who's now the Secretary of State, that is seemingly, helping to lead the dismantling of USAID and is now in charge of USAID, whatever remains of it. First, before we get to Rubio, let's hear from Senator Lindsey Graham, who's been a staunch supporter of President Trump. This is a message that he gave for USAID back in 2021 for USAID's 60th anniversary.
Hello, everybody. Senator Lindsey Graham here. Happy anniversary to all my friends at USAID. You've made a big difference in the world. You're a force for good. Created a great impression for our country, and you changed lives. You take taxpayer dollars and you improve the lives of others, which is good foreign policy, good national security policy. And to all the folks throughout the world who work for USAID, local hires, thank you. You're a great part of the team. I've been a big champion for a long time. Enjoy this anniversary, and when it comes to USAID, the best is yet to come.
And now let's look at Senator Marco Rubio, who's now, again, he's the Secretary of State now. Trump has put him in charge of also USAID and, working with Pete Morocco to dismantle the agency in its entirety. But he has previously very clearly stated the importance of USAID and why foreign assistance and foreign aid is so important for U.S. national security and national interests. Take a listen.
We don't have to give foreign aid. We do so because it furthers our national interests. That's why we give foreign aid. Now, obviously, there's a component to foreign aid that's humanitarian in scope, and that's important too. I promise you it's going to be a lot harder to recruit someone to anti-Americanism, anti-American terrorism, if the United States of America was the reason why they're even alive today.
Anybody who tells you that we can slash foreign aid and that will bring us to balance is lying to you. Foreign aid is less than 1% of our budget. It's just not true.
This next clip is from General Mattis, who basically makes it pretty clear to Congress that if you don't fund State Department, if you don't fund USAID, he needs to buy more ammunition. Take a listen.
Have you observed that the international development budget is helpful to us in providing national defense for our country?
Yes, sir. I would start with the Department of State budget, and frankly, they need to be as fully funded as Congress believes appropriate, because if you don't fund the State Department fully, then I need to buy more ammunition ultimately. So I think it's a cost-benefit ratio. The more that we put into the State Department's diplomacy, hopefully the less we have to put into a military budget as we deal with the outcome of an apparent American withdrawal from the international scene.
The argument here being that if we're not engaging around the world with diplomacy, if we're not engaging around the world, with development and aid programs, then the world is a more dangerous place and the military needs to be used more often. So prevention is worth a pound of cure. If we can prevent conflicts, we can prevent displacement, we can prevent all these things from happening, it makes a more secure world, which means that then we don't need to use our military quite as much. And then here are, bits and pieces. The full press conference is quite long, so I cut down, some clips. But this is from the State Department, where they're basically telling, through a press conference, the president's budget request. This is for fiscal year 2021. This is under President Trump, and their requests for funding from Congress for the State Department and USAID. And you have the Deputy Secretary of State and USAID Administrator Mark Green talking about what diplomacy and development assistance is, what we're doing with it, and why it's so important. And these were political appointees by Donald Trump during his administration.
The President's 2021 budget requests nearly $41 billion for the State Department and USAID. With these funds, we will protect our citizens at home and abroad and advance America's interests and the values of prosperity, freedom, and peace in coordination with our allies and partners around the world. We are at the forefront of the most pressing foreign policy and national security challenges our country faces. Both our agencies are working hard every day to protect the safety and security of American citizens, to advance U.S. national security and economic interests, to strengthen and build our alliances by providing support to our friends and partners, and to advance democratic values and strengthen democratic institutions around the world. Importantly, the budget protects against infectious disease threats at home and abroad by bolstering country capacity to prevent, detect, and respond to outbreaks and to prevent epidemics from reaching our borders. It also allows us to provide the necessary flexibility to respond to emerging global health threats such as the novel coronavirus and Ebola. This budget deploys U.S. foreign assistance as a vital tool, serving America's national interests and security, providing the resources for the United States to expand our influence and safeguard our economic interests, even as competition from rising powers increases.
These resources will help us reduce the reach of conflict, prevent the spread of infectious diseases like Ebola in the DRC and the novel coronavirus, as well as counteract the drivers of violence, instability, and other security threats. The budget request supports civil society and the private sector in our partner countries on the journey to self-reliance by strengthening their ability to lead their own path forward. The budget request provides the resources for USAID to champion American values by promoting democracy, citizen-responsive governance, and human rights. It supports our efforts to advance international religious freedom and protect persecuted religious and ethnic minorities, such as historic communities in northern Iraq and the Rohingya in Bangladesh and Burma. We see religious freedom as a fundamental human right and also critical to a more peaceful, more stable world. The budget request will also help USAID protect America's security at home and abroad and aim to renew America's competitive advantage for sustained economic growth and job creation. As we have since I joined the agency, we will work to engage the private sector to accelerate development solutions while creating opportunities for American businesses. The new Bureau for Humanitarian Assistance will advance USAID's mission of delivering food and non-food international disaster assistance in a way that maximizes impact as well as efficiency on behalf of the American taxpayer. Natural disasters and man-made conflict will continue to plague many parts of the world, but USAID will help governments and civil society reduce the risks of disaster, including early warning systems, while we also respond to urgent humanitarian needs.
So again, there's plenty of things that we could amend about USAID, that things can be fixed, things can be changed, but that's not what they're trying to do. They are destroying the agency in its entirety and then saying they're going to retain some parts of it within the State Department. But how, who, and all of the documentation, all of the contracts, all of the work that has been done, all the relationships over the last few years, all the knowledge base within USAID is just going to go with the agency. You can't bring that all over with a simple copy paste from USAID to the State Department. That's just not how it works. So, in addition to this having a real impact on people around the world, this is just going to be a nightmare for bureaucracy. And in the meantime, while they're figuring all this out, people are losing their jobs, people are losing their livelihoods, people are going to have to relocate from around the world back to the United States, presumably. Don't know where they're going. They don't have jobs. And people around the world that we're providing aid to are no longer going to get that aid. And so people are going to suffer because of this, seemingly half-baked plan.